So, I'm out political canvassing, right?
Okay.
I'm over here looking for my next house.
Okay.
And these two dudes come up with the dog and tell me, what's in your backpack?
Okay.
And I said, what do you mean what's in my backpack?
Okay.
Well, I thought I was getting robbed, dude.
I understand. I'm just saying.
And then
not robbing. How you doing?
Not bad.
You're right.
Are you his boss? Okay, sounds good.
Yeah.
Yeah, just the only concern is, man, look, some people just called in, right? They said that you were going up door to door, like checking door handles and stuff, okay?
Well, I'm not checking. I am going door to door.
We are.
Absolutely. You guys know the law for politically canvassing the area. That's absolutely something you're allowed to do, okay? Some of those people just called in, right, because they're concerned, because they thought you were like jingling door handles, and they're worried and they're concerned because there's been some break-ins in the area recently.
They need to not come up and demand I open anything. Come up with two dogs threatening me. Like, that is not okay, dude.
That's not okay. That's definitely not okay. And I think I can understand both sides of what's happening here.
I can understand.
The video opens with a bold claim, another example of alleged police misconduct unfolding in real time. A man engaged in political canvassing is suddenly confronted by individuals who approach him with suspicion, demanding to know what is inside his backpack. He describes feeling threatened, even fearing robbery at first. Moments later, uniformed officers arrive, responding to reports that he had been checking door handles in a neighborhood recently affected by break-ins. What begins as a routine canvassing effort quickly transforms into a tense constitutional debate over rights, authority, and perception.
Them too, but when I told them I'm politically canvassing,
They're not you guys. You know what I mean? They're not the cops.
So here's the deal, okay? So you got to remember, right? You're not in any kind of attire showing that you're politically canvassing, or you're in a video game T-shirt, some headphones, some sunglasses, and a backpack and ball shorts, right? So
that's not illegal.
No, it's not. I'm just explaining to you, right? People might perceive what you're doing, right, is illegal, like hot prowling, right? That is a law and it is a violation. You can't go on people's properties. Anytime you pass a public sidewalk and it's somebody's private property, that is trespassing, right? That's people's concern right now.
If I were to remain,
Our job is to figure out what's going on, right? All we need to know is your name, what you're putting. If you have anything to say, hey, I'm politically canvassing, cool. That way we can go back to them and tell them the gentleman is just politically canvassing. He showed us. We have sufficient, information to say, you know what, that's all he's doing. But in the interest of justice and for public, right, that's their request, and that's...
Officers explained that concerned residents reported suspicious behavior. Someone moving door to door with a backpack, dressed casually, not clearly identifying himself as a political worker. While canvassing is legal, they argue that entering private property, even briefly to knock, may constitute trespassing. The man insists he committed no crime, emphasizing that knocking on doors is a long-recognized form of political outreach protected by the First Amendment. The officers counter that public concern and recent criminal activity justify their inquiry, framing their actions as due diligence rather than harassment.
Why we're doing our due diligence.
well, I mean, respectfully, I know my rights. I will read. They can request all they want, but to alleviate their concern, my name is Ron and I work for...
Okay.
Am I being detained?
Right now, yes, for trespassing, because you were on people's properties. So if you want to go down that road, we just need your name, date of birth, and we'll check you, make sure you're not a wanted person, and be done and over with.
I'm so sorry. Where was he at where he was trespassing? I'm so sorry.
He was at people's doors that he was knocking. That's when you cross somebody's threshold to their property line, right? That is trespassing. When you're not on a public
Enter
sidewalk.
or remain unlawfully. I never entered or remained unlawfully.
Hold on, Ron. Calm down.
Yeah.
Sir, I'm just trying to understand.
Sure.
We're going to knock on people's doors.
No, I understand that. Yeah.
So, I'm sorry. So we're not allowed to knock.
First Amendment right.
Ron, calm down.
I'm sorry.
We're not allowed to walk onto to someone's door and knock on your door.
Correct, because it's their private property. So if
The discussion intensifies when officers request identification. They state that verifying his name and date of birth would allow them to confirm his explanation and reassure complainants. The canvasser refuses, asserting his Fourth Amendment protection against unreasonable searches and seizures. He asks directly whether he is being detained. The officer suggests that refusal to identify himself could lead to arrest for trespassing or obstruction. What follows is a back-and-forth exchange about legal definitions. what constitutes unlawful entry, and whether simply approaching a door crosses a criminal threshold.
So like right now we're on a public side. Where he's standing is technically private property. Somebody maintains that lawn, somebody cares for that lawn. This building probably, chances are, is who owns that, right? However, most people aren't going to call in and say, hey, you're trespassing, right? But because of the nature and how everything went down, right, and their confrontation, their disturbance, whatever it is that they got into, I wasn't there, right? You know I wasn't there. It was you and them, right?
Well, how are you going to convince a jury?
Right? So the allegation right now, right, is that. Right? Very simple. All we do is verify who you are, ensure that all you're doing is canvassing.
I have a Fourth Amendment protection.
Right? Okay, if you'd like to go down that road, we can go down and we'll take you to jail for trespassing, if that's the road you want to go down. I'm trying to prevent that, alleviate all that, by just verifying who you are. Very simple.
I committed no crime.
When you're trespassing, that is a crime.
No, if anybody ever told me to leave their property, I left, and that wasn't today.
Okay, it doesn't matter. You still can't just trespass on people's properties. It's private property. If you don't own it, it's owned by somebody else, right?
As tensions rise, the officers argue that any privately owned lawn or walkway technically falls under property law. If a property owner reports trespass, they claim officers must identify the individual and issue a formal warning. The canvasser challenges this interpretation, noting that no one asked him to leave, and that he complied when never requested in the past. He repeatedly asks for clarification. If he does not provide his name, will he be arrested? The officer's responses remain conditional, emphasizing procedure and potential charges while insisting they are trying to avoid escalation.
Like the grass you're standing on, if somebody called and said, hey, that guy's trespassing, I want to trespass,
so
I have
then
to identify you and issue you a warning, and then
a picture is sufficient.
Okay. What was that?
A picture is sufficient for a warning. You can take my picture and say you did.
That's not sufficient. We need a name and date of birth because we have to issue you a formal trespass warning.
So under threat of arrest, if I do not give you my name,
threat, okay.
So if I do not give you my name, will you?
Because now you're.
That you'll arrest me.
You're trespassing, and you don't give us your information. Now it's obstruction.
If I do not give you my name, you'll arrest me.
Listen, we don't want to go down that road.
I know, but I'm just asking you.
I am being as reasonable with you as I can be. Okay.
And I want to comply.
Listen, okay.
I want to comply, but
private property, okay. The city of Billings, right, requires we identify the person to issue them a warning, saying, "Hey, sir, you've been warned. Please do not trespass."
And the Supreme Court has ruled that a picture is sufficient.
I need you to hold on for a second. This is my program organizer.
Okay,
would you mind just talking to her for a second?
No.
The debate shifts toward constitutional authority. The canvasser insists he has committed no crime and questions a basis for reasonable, articulable suspicion. Officers maintain that responding to a call requires investigation, and that issuing a trespass warning demands formal identification. The man suggests a photograph should suffice, but officers reject that, stating department policy requires a name and date of birth. The exchange reveals a fundamental clash. One side focused on procedural enforcement, the other grounded in civil liberties and a belief that rights should not be surrendered under pressure.
I want legal representation.
Hello, this is Officer Diaz. Who am I speaking with? Good. I'm doing well. We're just out here because there was reports of some kind of hot prowling going on where, what's your name?
But they're false reports.
My name is...
Thank you.
You work for... Ron, he works with me.
Ryan.
Ron.
So I guess Brian? Ron. I guess Ron was doing some political canvassing.
Yes, that's what we did.
And they were knocking on doors and so forth, which they're allowed to do, right? However,
no crime.
When you trespass on somebody's private property, it's trespassing. So most people aren't going to call in that you came to solicit and do all that stuff, right? At the end of the day, like I explained all that, that's all we're trying to do.
I'm going to give up my rights. He just said I haven't committed any crime. I have no obligation to identify.
Real quick,
that's what he said.
It's Ron, right?
But if he's going to threaten me with arrest, then I will sue them for a violation.
So, really quickly.
A supervisor and the canvasser's program organizer become involved by phone, attempting to clarify the situation. Officers acknowledge that political canvassing itself is lawful, yet maintain that private property boundaries complicate matters. The canvasser reiterates that he is exercising his First Amendment rights and demands to know the specific city code allegedly violated. He presses the officers to articulate a clear crime. They respond that uncertainty itself justifies investigation, arguing they must confirm identity before closing the call. The standoff becomes less about facts and more about legal interpretation.
There's like
Let me just clear this up really quickly,
grass.
okay?
Somebody maintains the grass.
Billing City
Somebody
Code has a
maintains
thing
that
just called
property, and it's
prowling.
private.
That's fine. I just need to know if I do not give my name, will you arrest me?
If Ron is
Okay,
gonna
thank you.
cooperate,
No.
I don't know
Okay.
what company you work for.
Am I free to go now?
Not want to continue.
Not right now, right? Just Billing City
So
Code.
what reasonable articulable suspicion do you have that I... Trespassing is when you enter and remain unlawfully. Nothing about me knocking on their door was unlawful.
I appreciate you explaining the trespass to me, okay? That's really helpful. Thank you. Okay?
Like I said, most
I'm talking about the
people in
situation
reasonable
is Billing City Code,
don't care
okay?
that you
That has to do with
come to their
prowling. You
door.
kind of already explained to
They won't
me
say anything.
why you're here. You're politically
And I have my boss. So there we go. Political canvassing. This is my First Amendment right. I am exercising my First Amendment right.
So, like, as part of like that Billing City Code
So,
requiring
because of that,
we just need to identify.
Can you get me that Billing City Code?
Would you like me to show it to you?
Yeah.
I don't want a person identify him,
you go,
be
boss.
done with it, and send him on his way.
You can even read it if you would like.
Being difficult and not wanting to give his name. So,
Gradually, the tone softens. Officers explain they are responding to citizen complaints and are not attempting to antagonize him. They emphasize public safety and community reassurance as their priorities. The canvasser, still firm, repeats that he believes in his rights and refuses to identify himself without lawful grounds. He questions how his name would change the facts already explained. The officers, facing limited resources and competing calls, weigh whether further escalation serves the public interest or merely prolongs a confrontation that may yield no criminal finding.
that's kind of where we're at.
Oh, I'm a law-abiding individual practicing my First Amendment right, though.
Sorry.
Absolutely. Right, because
So,
part of the problem
absolutely,
is
absolutely.
People came and they described it, right? They described it as you were coming in and you were like making.
But that's why you
right?
do due diligence and you come and get the second side of the story and you find out that my boss is here and I'm exercising my First Amendment right.
We're just trying
So
to-
now, so what crime have I committed?
Dogs
Because I'm trying to complete and make sure, right? Like obviously, yeah.
What does my name have to do with any of that?
Verify it, right? For us to be able to
And that's what we
properly
want to leave it
verify
as, very simple.
and confirm,
Just be like, hey,
right? That you are here and what you're doing is
People don't want
politically.
I just told you, do you have any reason to believe that is not why I am here? Other than what those people, exactly. If you don't know, how are you going to convince a jury?
Because here's the thing, man, is we don't necessarily know for sure.
Ron, we are not trying to antagonize these guys. They're trying to do their jobs. Someone
I'll
call the
pass the
police. Like
phone
if you
over
were
to
to call
Ron
the
so you
police
can have
in
a
your area and tell them it's the same thing, they're going to come and check it out. That what they said to you is not
She's
okay,
gonna
but
talk to you after.
Ultimately, officers decide to disengage, citing larger issues affecting the city and choosing not to pursue arrest. The canvasser is allowed to leave. The video closes with a broader reflection, urging viewers to consider how often similar encounters may occur without cameras present. It calls for awareness, encouraging citizens to understand constitutional protections and to document interactions with law enforcement. The incident leaves unresolved questions about discretion, authority, and the delicate balance between community safety and individual liberty, an ongoing debate at the heart of modern policing.
figure out the situation. We've got to try to stay calm for them. They're trying to not arrest you. They're trying to just trying to get to the bottom of who we are so that they can just.
I believe in my
know.
rights. That's why I'm out politically canvassing, exercising my First Amendment right. And I've just asked, am I going to be arrested if I do not give my name? He said no. What's your answer?
Okay, so
Since you know that I'm politically canvassing and
here's
not
the deal.
doing that code.
here's the deal, okay? Since you're being less than forthcoming and there's bigger problems that are plaguing our city in the interest of justice and the safety of the community, we're not going to waste our time with you anymore, okay?
I want to go home.
But
Thank
the
you.
reality is, okay,
Thank you.
had we had more time and all this stuff, we'd be having a different